Hello and welcome to my Physics 1 topical lecture videos. These are some short videos to go over the various topics of interest that we will cover in our algebra and trigonometry based Physics 1 videos. This is the first one in that series, at least it's the first one conceptually. I have of course recorded other videos prior. But this is the first of this new set. Today's video we're going to be talking about scientific notation. This is really something that is sort of prerequisite or background information, stuff that you should already know before starting a physics course. But there's a few of these that I want to make that are over various prerequisites before we get into the meat of the course. Okay, so everybody who has sort of gone through school, especially in the US, should already be familiar with what's called standard form. Standard form basically is how you're used to writing numbers, where you just write the number out and maybe use some commas to separate digits. So I've just written the number 4,500,000. So this is the standard form of it. In words, we would say 4,500,000. And then what we want to do is write this in scientific notation. Okay, scientific notation is used for, or is especially useful for, very large numbers or very small numbers. Okay, so scientific notation, I'll just write the number out and then I'll explain what it is. So in scientific notation, this would be 4.5 times 10 to the 6th. Okay, so that is scientific notation for this number. Now, what scientific notation is, the basic form, so basic form of scientific notation is to have some number, we'll call it just lowercase n, times 10 to some integer power. So I will use 10 to the m, where n is a number basically 1 less than n less than 10. Or I should really say 1 less than or equal to n less than 10. And m is an integer. Could be positive, negative, or 0. Okay? And the way that scientific notation works is you just take whatever number it is from standard form and you ask, if I have to start the scientific notation by writing a number between 1 and 10, what would I need to multiply that number by? How many zeros would I have to tag on to it, in other words, to make it into the number that I want to write? So if I go back here to 4,500,000 and I count the places that are zeros, I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. But then this 5 is actually in the not whole numbers place as well, and so I actually get a 6th number here. This one doesn't count, this one's a whole number. And so since I counted up to 6, that means that I have 10 to the 6th here, with the 4.5 being from the first two digits. and this of course works for more digits than that. So it also works for numbers that are less than 1. So another example, what if I have the number 0.000543, something like that, okay? So this process says my scientific notation, this is my standard form, so this is standard. So scientific notation, what we have to do is begin by looking at what these numbers are. So these numbers have to be converted to 5.43. And to do that, I have to move this decimal place 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. So I have 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves. So that is times 10 to the negative 4, since I had to move the decimal to the right instead of to the left. Okay, so that's it. That's all there is to scientific notation. So I'll give a couple of kind of quiz numbers for you to quiz yourself, and then I'll write the answer. So first quiz number, what if you have a number like this? And I'm going to write it in standard form but without the commas, and I'll explain why that is as well. The reason why we don't usually write the commas in science is because in Europe they use a comma where we would use a decimal, and they use a decimal where we use a comma. And so we end up just using the decimal place as being a decimal, and then we use a space between groups of 3 numbers. Alright, so there's your first quiz, and then your second one, quick quiz 2, how would you write 5.2 in scientific notation? Okay, and for quiz 3, 0.000000975. Alright, so you can pause the video if you want more time to think about what the answers are, but I will just tell you the answers here. So this one right here, I'm needing to move the decimal place from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spaces. So this becomes 5.6, and maybe I need to keep another digit. Maybe I want to make it 5.60, and we'll get into that in a different video. So 5.6 or maybe 5.60, I move this decimal place 12 spaces to the left, so I need to do times 10 to the 12. This one right here, I don't need to move the decimal around, so I get to start it off as 5.2, and since I didn't move the decimal, I would say times 10 to the 0 power. This one right here, I need to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces, but to the right. So this becomes 9.75 times 10 to the negative 7. Alright, that's it. That's all there is to this scientific notation. But there are a couple other sort of notes for practical purposes, because I've covered now how to do scientific notation with pen and paper, but you may also want to know, how do I enter it into a computer? For example, your homework system, or maybe you're writing a computer program, or maybe you're using Excel or something like that. And the answer is, let's take these last few that I did, these numbers right here, and we'll just copy them over onto this last sheet, and then, oops, let's copy them, but let's actually move them up here. If I wanted to write it on the computer, whoops, did not mean to tune the color like that. This number right here might be written as 5.60 big E plus 12. That's one way of writing it. Or, depending on the program you're using, it might be 5.60 asterisk for multiplication 10 caret 12. Or it might be 5.60 times little e to the 12. And sometimes you have to have a plus here and sometimes you don't. It just depends upon the system you're using. This one right here likewise would become 9.75 e minus 7, or 9.75 asterisk 10 caret negative 7, or it might be 9.75 times lowercase e minus 7. You do need the minus sign in this case since it is to a negative power. This one right here, it's not very clear that you'd ever really need to enter it in scientific notation on a computer, but in the event that you did, you could write this as 5.2 e plus 0, or 5.2 lowercase e 0. All right. So that gives you how to do it on a computer. That's if you want to write it in Excel or what have you, in a program or in your homework system. And so now that's it. That really is it for the video. And thanks for watching.